One of patriarchy's favorite thing to do is to humble a confident woman. Let's talk about today. So the US lost today and, are out of the World Cup. And partly it's because Megan missed her penalty kick. And how many people, especially men, have been waiting for this moment for her to be humbled. So I actually had the honor and privilege to watch her and the Team USA win the last World Cup here in France. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in a minute. I remember the more I unpack all this stuff, the more I catch patriarchy, capitalism, white supremacy, all this crap that I've been indoctrinated with, I catch it in real time in my brain. And I'm like, whoa, what was that? Because I remember being like uncomfortable with how confident she is. And I heard at one point in time being like, God, chill your look. And I'm like, wait, what? We never tell men to humble themselves. And if we do, it's because they need to, because cishet white men especially have way too much confidence. So when I see a woman who is so proud of herself and yet also humble, I'm like, that's what I want to be. She gave us a really great role model to look up to. Part of me was really uncomfortable with that. But God, I'm so glad I questioned that train of thinking. Because even today, in like a very humiliating moment, she wasn't ashamed. She laughed. She was like, what a sick joke. Like her last, World Cup, her last huge, her moment in the spotlight, it just comes down to her and she misses a penalty kick. And she even said to herself, you gotta be farking kidding me. I'm gonna miss the penalty. But just a quick reminder, especially for anyone who doesn't know, some of y'all are not from the US and don't really follow any of this. This is what it looks like to be brave and live according to your principles. She got a lot of shit for this, but it was important to her because she knows that she's a privileged white woman. For her to do this is a lot easier. For her to do this, she'll have less consequences than if a black woman does this, right? So she used that privilege to do this, and it caused a stir, but now this is what everyone does, except good old Carly Lloyd, who seems to be like a boomer in every way possible. She's even been on interviews being like, you know what? This team needs to stop smiling and cheering. They need to work. God, it's so annoying. And now she's going to say, I was right. See, they're not working hard enough. See? Her and Megan had a lot of beef because she literally has boomer mentality, like a killjoy. She also goes on Fox News and talks a bunch of stuff and also says some pretty wonderful stuff. So, educated a lot of white people on what it's like to face stuff we don't want to, right? This is important. She talks a lot about looking at the US honestly, because most people who are proud to be an American don't know our history. So what I liked is that I actually usually don't, this sounds terrible, but I actually usually don't root for the US a lot of times. They're so annoying. And when I say we, I'm pretty much talking about white people, but because it's usually us. We're usually the ones who are like, rah, rah, rah. So I actually was never root for the US American men's team, but I always root for the women's team. Not because they're American necessarily, because, we win the Olympics and all this crap all the time because of money. We have so much money, right? We take players from everywhere else and we're like, come on. But this team, I want to show why this team, it's really important what they've done for women's soccer. So I actually got to go to the World Cup. One of my really good friends, Daisy, she's a more private person. She probably doesn't want her picture shown. She loves soccer. She came all the way to France to visit me, got us tickets to see Team USA, 2 of their games. And she's the one who explained to me how important Title IX is. And also, I don't really care about soccer or football, whatever you want to call it, but I love watching people excited about it. And Daisy watching her experience so much joy watching the team she loves, it was that made it all worth it. Then I started really getting into it, right? There's people out in costumes and stuff. We had this was before Rude died, I think. We went to the Dutch people, they go all out. Look at this guy. Look at that guy. Look at her. Look at her wearing cheese on her head. So when the US got into the final, Daisy was actually already gone. She had tickets at the last minute, somehow super cheap tickets because, they had leftovers and we just nabbed them. I went with my friend Michael. So he wore his pride flag and I brought my equal pay stuff. And we basically were there, not so much to support the U.S. American team, but I wanted people to understand why that team wins. It's not because we're America. It's because of Title IX. I went hardcore. I wanted everyone to wonder what the hell Title IX was. I also didn't want to be responsible for explaining Title IX. So I'm like, Title IX, Google it. And everyone was like, Title IX, Title IX. And people were like, what? What's that? And I'm like, Google it. So this article in the New York Times explains it well. Title IX, it actually was originally not even about, sports. Title IX is why the U.S. women's team wins all the time. Because that was when read this article if you want to read the whole history. Because it started in 1972. That's what banned Schmeg's discrimination in education. And it took a while to have really any impact, but it started to have a huge impact in women's sports, but especially women's soccer. Then after you have a generation of women who've grown up having money invested in our sports, right? Because it always comes down to money, y'all. Always. People would care more about women's sports if women's sports were funded more. If they had the advertising. People care about the things that advertisers, media, and all that stuff push out, right? And put money into. So the 1996, they won the gold. All of a sudden, you're like, oh, wow, okay, soccer. Because if there's one thing that U.S. Americans love, it's to win. We love winning. We're so competitive. It's disturbing. And after that, they just started dominating soccer. 4 World Cup titles, 4 Olympic golds. And most importantly, these women have been fighting for equal pay for what, six years? And sometimes I'm annoyed by how happy and how proud they are. And then I realize, oh, right. That's patriarchy. We never tell men to, maybe you should calm down. Don't celebrate. No, they get on buses. They have these paper ribbon parades, whatever you call them. Like when Messi went back to Argentina, that World Cup title finally. Did you see that footage? Nobody has any problem with men just being like, yeah, I did that. We did that. Yeah, look at me. But when women dare to act the same way, proud of themselves, we're just like, shut up. But women, white women, especially like this, think that, being proud and literally, and out and proud too, and taking a knee, standing up, caring about justice. That's poison. Poison. And also, we had some moms in the World Cup. Athletes like Serena Williams, Alex Morgan, any moms out there that are still playing professionally? Yes, right? So, I love how joyful she is. I don't know her. She could be a complete jerk in real life, right? You never know people. We never know celebrities. But everything she seems to stand for is amazing. And she's been working her whole career to fight for justice, along with winning titles and World Cups. And I wish I had more of that energy, honestly, because so many women are afraid to ask for raises. Or just, even in the Barbie movie, when they got those awards, they're like, I deserve this. Instead of thank you. I do think it's good to show gratitude to people that helped you get there, because I'm more of the community, not individualism minded. But I love that in Barbie. And I love that in general. Being like, yeah, I'm not perfect, but I did earn this. Good for me. And also the U.S. women's team has had an impact internationally. Every time there's a win for women's soccer, wherever it is, it's a win for all women. And a lot of the international players who are playing on other teams were trained in the U.S. thanks to Title IX. Here's a chart if you don't believe me. And this article, 5 reasons the United States influences women's soccer worldwide. Trained in the U.S., Title IX, and hopefully inspiration in general, and some others you can read yourself. It takes a lot of courage to live authentically and not do all the stuff to stay in line and do all the things that everyone tells us we're supposed to do. To express myself fully and not just be tolerated or accepted. I love that. It's sad that they lost today, but I also think it's good that I hate it when one team wins all the time. Please don't humble yourself too much, because patriarchy is going to do it for you anyway.